Everyone likes three ways. Here are three easy and awesome ways to start your game. When we return.
Mage Gate Games, bringing more fun and variety to your 5e games.
I'm Baba Tucker.
And I'm Jackson Dean Chase. And together, we're MageGate Games,
where we're answering questions for players and GMs just like you. If you're into role-playing and rolling dice, you're in the right place. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss another video. Today, we are answering a question from one of my friends. I got this call and he was like, how do you start a game? I don't know how to do it. And so Jackson and I came up with three awesome and easy ways to start your game. Jackson, what are those awesome and easy ways?
Well, the first one is to start with action, right in the middle of an action scene, just like a James Bond movie, right? The other way is you could start directly at the adventure location. Just skip all the stuff, a meeting in the tavern or whatever, and then you just start. There's the door to the dungeon or whatever, the haunted forest, whatever it is. Or the third way is if you want to get a little role playing in, is called The Ordinary World. And that one gives you a chance to see a little snapshot of what the characters' lives are like on a normal day right before the catalyst happens, which could be, whatever the call to adventure is.
Right. So let's go ahead and dive into those a little bit. I would like to hear that start in action because you have done this really well in some of our campaigns and also described it really well in the writer's book that you have.
Right,
so yeah.
Writing Dynamite Story Hooks, yeah. I came up with a whole bunch of different ways to start a novel and how not to start a novel and how to fix them if that is how you chose to start for whatever reason. But we're going to focus on the number one way to do that, and that is with action. Now, with action, you could it could be let's say the characters wake up, they're in their home village or city, wherever, campsite, could be anywhere, but they're in what they thought was a safe place, and then all of a sudden they're attacked. Now that could be an invading army. Maybe it's the neighboring tribe or village or whatever it is. They could, they come in, they can hear that stuff going on, they hear people screaming, and carnage, stuff catches on fire, and then you got like a countdown. It's like, okay, you just woke up, this is what's going on, what do you do? And then you give them a countdown. And if they're in their home village, there could be stakes characters involved. They could be their family. They could be living with their family, or camping with their friends, for example, or anything. It could be, do they stay to fight? Do they try and get their loved ones out, or do they just take off?
Right.
There's only a few options, and you only have a limited amount of time to make your choice.
Yeah.
And then whatever happens, happens.
Right. Yeah.
That would be one way to do it. Another way to do it would be maybe all the characters have decided to join some sort of organization. And maybe that organization decides to have an initiation that is a combat, and you have to stay within a certain area, but maybe there's no rules within that area. And who may the best player win.
Yeah.
And that determines where you place, assuming you're not killed. If you're knocked out, defeated, whatever, surrender, then you could what order that happens in could determine your rank within the organization.
Right.
Obviously you don't get to be the boss, but within that class of new recruits.
Right. That works well with like factions and things. Like, so if you're having here's some factions against each other and you're just put right in that action. It's good for It's a wonderful storytelling, and it's wonderful like for a GM because you can introduce things right away. So like, okay, you understand, okay, you guys are all running from the thing. Okay, and what is that thing? Oh, it's your group of orcs. It's your group of, mutant vampires, or like, whatever. And then also in the distance could be another faction. Either it could be opposition or allies or things like that, right? So you get to info and lore dump or something like that with those things when you're just immediately there. And I love that so much, right? It's a
Yeah,
really awesome way to start your game. Yeah.
it is. And you get to learn. If you're new, you get to learn, or playing a new character class or whatever. You get thrown in. You got to figure out how to do whatever your character does, how you're going to, what role you're going to take in combat. You're going to familiarize yourself with your abilities. And yeah, it can be a very effective way to get everybody and to learn the combat system if you're not familiar with it.
Right.
It can be a great way to do that. Another option would be if the characters are all, they all know each other and they've gone on other adventures prior. You could have like the James Bond cinematic opening where it's the end of whatever their last mission was, and so
Yes.
there's that. And then after the end of that cinematic mission, they're back at the tavern or wherever, or reporting to their employer, and they get some kind of reward, and then they get their next mission.
Right.
But that also fulfills the same function of starting with action.
I think it also helps GMs to say like, oh yeah, you guys you have a bond already, right? A James Bond. No, you guys have this bond already, and instead of having that, like, maybe the mission where everybody's trying to get to know each other, you already know how your characters interact because you just described what happened in that last, like, oh yeah, you're all jumping out of the window as this burning building starts to collapse, right? And you land on the sled, and how do you defeat the guys who are pursuing you, right? Like, and you set that up, and now you guys feel badass when you're like just starting, like that's a chance. Because as a GM, that's what you want to do. You want to make your players feel badass and the scene feel badass and bring your world to life. And that kind of takes us to the next one, like adventure locations, right? So making your scene badass. I like the whole I have these session zeros of getting characters background. Okay, this is the type of story that we're having, but then automatically just putting them in the location. So it empowers the players kind of from the start of like when you're doing that location thing. For example, they're starting out, they've already prepared for the adventure. They've followed the rumors to locate this artifact, and now they are standing in front of this massive stone slab door. It's locked, but what is it? Scabs, your rogue, he knows how to unlock this ancient door. He goes and he tampers with the mechanism, and it starts to slide open. You smell the rotten stench and decay of what's inside as it wafts, from from that, and then whoa, okay, now you're in it. Now your players are in it, and you just gave them something that you don't even have to say it. You just have them like, oh yeah, you scouted this part, and now you guys are stepping in. Who's taking the lead? Now that's right. That also takes in the starting in action too. But now you're already in the location. You're already going for that, like, stepping in, and you start to hear the the howls of the beasts that have tracked your scent, and you must descend down into this thing before they catch you, right? There's adding in, a whole bunch of stuff that you can put that on there, or you can even tell, like, oh yeah, after opening this thing, the rogue tells you guys that this thing is the opening mechanism is on a timer, right? It seems like we only have a few hours of this thing being open, right? So now you got to go, right? So you got these timers going, you got your location, and boom, so all you need is a few good descriptions and your location. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Then the other one, the third one, is the ordinary world. And this is what you'll see in most movies, other than James Bond, is you'll see the main character will be presented to the audience. He'll be introduced in his ordinary world, where maybe he's like, some schlub who has a crappy life, crappy job, just ordinary, like normal world, right? And then all of a sudden, the catalyst happens. And what there is there, before that, though, there's a couple little foreshadowing things, where it's kind of like a be careful what you wish for kind of thing, where the character's like, oh, I really wish something interesting would happen, but not like that. It's like a secondary character, a friend, some NPC, can come in and have a brief conversation and say, oh yeah, it's too bad that you decided to do this, and I know your dream was to do that, but it's much safer to do this, and you should be grateful that you're here and safe with us and everything, right? And then you're like, yeah, and then you walk out the door, and then all hell breaks loose, basically. Right. I mean, on your way to work or the well, or to lift that bale, tote that barge, or whatever, right. Just like whatever normal stuff you do in your day, and then ambush. It could be then the invading army could come through, or maybe there's somebody who needs help. You stumble across a traveler who needs help, and that would be a more interesting way than the wizard walks into the tavern and decides to hire you. It's like, oh, I just found like this guy on the road and he's injured and he needs help. And what do? Do you provide that aid, and you take him back to your place, and then, oh, whoops, he's actually being pursued by these other horrible people or things, right. And that now you've placed all your NPC friends and family in danger.
Right. Yeah, I think sometimes if you're feeling like those are kind of slow burn starts, you can like take that ordinary world and be like, okay, a month ago it was the harvest, and you all had this wonderful celebration, and the priest did the rituals and things. Oh, remember, we just put out our ritual book, speaking of, and you can have this, like, oh yeah, so that this community is like this. It has this feeling and this way. So you're setting up and giving this area or this background of that area a characteristic, right? It's almost a character in itself. And then what we do is we say, like, right, that was 3 months ago, but 2 weeks ago the grains all started to rot, right? 3 days ago a strange traveler was seen that came through your town and was very interested in all the children, right? Oh, right. Like, what is this, right? And then and three 1 day ago all the children are missing, right? Now you're on the tracks to finding them, right? Now you have found one of the children's missing shoes, or boots or whatever, or sandals and stuff. And now that, so you got that background, right? And it kind of gave you this timeline, and that's kind of a fun thing to do, right? Put these timelines together, so you get to do a little bit of info dump here, and then you find this question, right, that you want the players to answer, like, what happened, and what does it have to do with the grain? What does the missing children have to do with, if that has anything to do with anything? And then, they could go, oh, now you're searching other towns maybe this happened to, or maybe you're You're actually actively searching for the, like, you know, they got to find the children. So it's a wonderful way to kind of, you know, you hear that ordinary life, and you get to use that, right? You know, 4 months ago you got married, right? You know, 2 months ago a huge earthquake hit, and you know, there's more details that you have, right? But you started seeing shadows in the corner of your eyes, and you don't know what it was. And every time you see your wife smile, the visage of her being dead flashes before your eyes. You know, one week ago, you stopped looking at your wife altogether, right? And now you are dun dun dun, right? And then you like, you know, why are you in this tomb trying to lock your wife away in this, you know, crypt below and perform a ritual to, you know, seal away the undead spirit that has, you know, resided in her or something, or that possessed her, right? That's whoa. Right? You got this, you can do whatever you want, right? But you understand that it went from a normal situation to an extreme situation, and it didn't have to take very long for you to say that and get them into the action. So
right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was going to say just one more thing to add about the ordinary world is whenever you could let that go as long as you want, right? But the minute it starts to feel boring, that's when you kick in the catalyst. If you're wondering, when do I put the catalyst in? It's as soon as you feel like it, as soon as things start to slow down, boom, throw in that action, and then problem solved. And then everybody's off to the races.
Right. If you are starting in an inn, light that inn on fire, or have it surrounded by zombies, or pirate attack. I don't know, a dragon. This is Dungeons and Dragons, right? If you're playing, right? You put there's a dungeon underneath that inn, and above you is a dragon attacking. You gotta get down in that dungeon. Yeah, so I hope that you know, that inspires you to start your game. You know, if you end up using this, please tell us what happened. And if you have any questions, please ask us down below. Your question could be answered just like this. All right, we are MageGate Games, and thank you very much. Bringing more magic to your game. All right.
See you next time.
See you next time. If you'd like to see more things like this, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell icon. If you feel like supporting us and helping us bring more things to you and our community through the Mage Gate, go ahead and check out our links in the description below and join our Patreon. If you haven't picked up your free Heirloom Magic Item PDF, go ahead and check out our website where you can get that for free. Thank you so much again, and see you in another video.